To build a computer, you will need a power supply, an Ethernet port, memory sticks, a motherboard, and for our purposes, we won't need a hard drive or any operating system because we won't cover that in this video.
The only utilities that you will need are an assortment of screwdrivers.
One of the most important parts on building a computer is the motherboard. The motherboard's main job is to tie everything on the computer together.
As you can see on the motherboard, there's a black fan on top of a silver block called a heatsink. The heatsink's purpose is to cool off the processor through thermal conductivity.
The processor needs to be cooled off because it is doing massive amount of multiplication and addition every second. This causes it to overheat. If it would overheat, then the computer would automatically shut down. This is why the heatsink is a valuable part of the computer.
The Ethernet is a connection between other computers and the internet. Some of today's modern-day computers have an automatic Ethernet port already built into them.
Another important part of a computer is the memory. When someone says it's loading, it means it's putting information from the hard drive into the memory. The more memory you have, the more applications you get opened at once.
The power supply supplies power to the entire computer, including the motherboard, the heatsink, the processor, PCI cards such as the Ethernet, and memory cards.
For our purposes, this video is planned to be short and concise. If you're ever planning on building an actual computer, we recommend that you watch a full-length and detailed video on how to do so.
The first step that we will show you in building our computer is installing the memory card.
Before you install memory, there are notches on the bottom of each memory stick. When you put the memory into the port, it should be off-centered so you don't put the memory in backwards. To put in the memory, simply place it inside the port and put some firm pressure down on it. You might have to put your hand under the motherboard and put pressure on it if you need to. And it should snap in. Like so. Now we're going to put the motherboard into the computer case. When you do this, make sure all the PCI Express slots are facing the outside of the computer where the ports are for the external PCI Express ports. And make sure you don't hit any edges too quickly. And also, try to get all the back ports, like the VGA port, into the port so it doesn't scratch. And then you can simply lay it on top once they're all in.
After you have placed the motherboard in the computer case and lined up the back ports, then use screws in the mounting points.
After all the mounting points are secured, you can now install the Ethernet card. It simply goes right into the PCI Express slot, but it might take a bit of fiddling for it to fit in. Make sure there's no parts that are sticking out or your hardware can take some damage. There we go.
We will now insert the power supply into the computer case. As you insert the power supply, you want to make sure that it does not come in contact with the motherboard or any of its components. You then want to slide it to the right and forward. Make sure that it clicks into the computer.
And then there are just a few mounting points on the back. Here, 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 and here. And that should keep the power supply in place.
The last step of building a computer is plugging in the power cords. These two cords with the white tips are from the power supply and power the motherboard. This cord with the black tip transmits the signal that the on button in front of the computer case has been pressed. You slowly and gently then put the cord onto the needles. Now you move on to the two power cords. We will then put this white tip cord into here. And gently press down to make sure that it's secure. Lastly, we will put the smaller white tip. This cord powers the heatsink and the processor.
For the purposes of this video, these cables and all these other excess cables will not be used.
After completing all of the steps of the inside of the computer case, this is the final product.
Now we will put the VGA cable or video cable into the back of the computer. Tighten down these screws so it doesn't fall out. Now before we turn on the computer, some computer building superstition, never put on the side panel before turning on the computer for the first time, or else it will never work.
Moment of truth. We have the monitor screen on, and we are now going to press the power switch.
Fans are spinning. Should be some signal on the screen. There we go.
Here it is.
The
computer's up and running.
Now we're not installing an operating system, so it should automatically shut off, or should it stay at this screen. Thank you for watching our video.
We hope that you learned the basic steps and materials needed in order to create a computer. Have a good day.